Hey gang, hope you're doing good today. This is going to be part two of how to avoid negative stress. And like I said in my first video, stress is not a bad thing. It gets your heart rate going. It lets you know that you're alive. It keeps you focused. But stress becomes bad when we can't handle it, and then our bodies and our minds begin to break down. We get paranoid. Our blood pressure stays up. We do things that are deleterious to God's purpose in our lives. So part two is we have to transfer trust. Too many times we trust in ourselves. And again, faith without works is dead. That's very, very important. And even and with that thought process, God is not going to do for us what He has given us the purpose and the plan and the ability to do for ourselves. It's just not going to happen. God didn't get on the cross for Jesus or for us. God didn't turn the water to wine. That was Jesus's job. That was Jesus' purpose. And so before we transfer trust, and that's important, what's the last thing God told you to do? If you haven't done the last thing God told you to do, that's why you're stressed. That's why you can't move forward, is because you won't obey. You won't submit. You won't put this situation on your shoulders, because Jesus says this. He says, "Come to me, all who are weary and heavy laden, and I will give you rest." Then he says, "Take my yoke upon you." So there is a yoke that we have to carry, and that yoke is made for us specifically for the purpose that God has given us. We cannot take that yoke off. If we do, we're not in submission and we're out of order. So number one of part two is you have to do the last thing God told you to do, and don't try to transfer responsibility. We got to transfer trust. And that means is that if God has told you to do something, you can't say, "I'm waiting." You can't say, "I didn't hear him." You can't say, "I'm waiting on faith." You have it now. Move forward. And then the second part of part two is, once you've done all that you can do, once you have prayed and fasted and spent time in the Word and worshiped and got your prayer team and done all this kind of stuff, you have to transfer trust. Meaning, you've done your part. Now, God, it's your turn, and you've got to sit back and wait. You've got to sit back and pray. You've got to sit back and continue. Jesus says, "Tarry until I come." And He wants us to continue, but not tarry until I come. Carry on until I come in that sense. And so we have to make sure that we are doing what God told us to do. We're walking in His purpose until God moves that thing in our lives that could cause us stress. So in a nutshell, part two is this. You've got to transfer the trust. You can't depend on yourself anymore. You've done your part. You've obeyed God, and just wait. You may be waiting on your kid's salvation. You may be waiting on a job. You may be waiting on your healing. You may be waiting on something, and you don't see it with your eyes yet, but it's there. It's there. All right. So number two is transfer trust. One of my favorite verses in the whole Bible is Proverbs 3:5. Trust the Lord with all your heart. Don't lean on your own understanding. You can't see what God sees yet. And then it says, acknowledge Him in all your ways, and He will direct your path. So after you've done all that you're supposed to do, you got to transfer trust. All right. See ya.